Welcome to Topic 6, Lesson 2, Estimating the Product of a Whole Number and a Decimal. So today we're going to talk about how we use rounding in whole numbers to estimate the product of a whole number and a decimal. So basically we're going to be doing more estimating. And just like every other estimating we've been talking about it in terms of two different ways, in terms of rounding and in terms of compatible numbers. And we're going to do the same exact thing with decimals, just like we've been doing it. So this should become familiar at this point. You should be able to do this probably even without me telling you. So one way to do this would be to round each number to the greatest number that has a non-digit 0. So in that case, we're going to round to the 2. The greatest place it says to round to. The greatest place. So the greatest place would be a 2. So we're going to round to the 2. So the 2 is going to the 1, and the 1's going to tell the round to 2. The 1's going to look at the greatest place here is the 6. The 1's going to look at the 6. And the 6 is going to tell the 1 to round up to 20. So 2 times 20 equals 40. So that would be one possible estimate. That would be using rounding. We rounded both numbers to the greatest non-zero digit, which would be the 2. It would be the 1's place in this one, and it would be the 10's place in this one. That would be one way of doing it. And that's in some ways probably the easiest way to do it. It's probably the most consistent way of doing it. Like if I told you to do it this way, and I did it this way, we'd probably come up with the same answer. We should come up with the same answer, actually, if we follow traditional rounding rules. The other way to do this would be to use compatible numbers. Now, this way could come up with different numbers, because what we think of compatible numbers could be different. So again, we're going to go back to our $2.15 times 16. I'm going to round my $2.15 to 2, because, frankly, 2, I can multiply an awful lot of things by 2. 2 is one of those numbers that we can double everything. In fact, you could probably double 16 in your head. You could probably do this as 2 times 16 and get 32. That's fine. But if you don't want to do it that way, what could you round that 16 to that would make it to a compatible number? I'd round it to 15. Because 2 times 15 is 30. I know 2 15s are 30. I can do that in my head. So I would take either 30 or 32 for this. I think either one of those would work as compatible numbers. I can't think of anything else that would really be, like I said, I can't imagine doing anything else with this number besides 2. And I think only 15 and 16 would be the most accurate, and then 15 would be a compatible number. I don't think I'd drop it down to 10 or raise it up to 20. I don't think it's necessary, and I think you're going to get an answer that's so far off that I don't think it would be is good. Although that's what we did in this one, right? We did change it to 20. So I just think for compatible numbers, I think there are closer compatible numbers than 20. I guess is the best way to put it. Why don't you try it? This is going to be a short video. Let's see. So we got 9 200ths times 80 and 54 hundredths times 24. Okay. So I picked a tough one. So this one we'll talk about in a second. Let's do it. This one's the easy one. So if we're going to do this by rounding, I'm going to round this to 9 times 80, which would equal 720, right? Because that would easily round to 9. It's so close. In the 80, I can leave as an 80, because I know 9 times 8 is 72, and then I'm going to add 1 0 and get 720. This one's a little tougher. So let's talk about this one. Okay, the video is not going to be quite as short as I thought it was going to be. So there's two different ways of doing this. One way would be the quick and dirty, easy way. And in that case, I would be rounding it to the 1's place. And if I round it to the 1's place, if I round 54 hundredths to the 1's place, that would round to 1, right? Because the 0 would look at the 5, and the 5 would tell the 0 to round up. And I think we can all do 1 times 24 in our head, right? But if I took this 54, but if I rounded it, if I thought more compatible numbers, 50 hundredths or 5 tenths is like a half. And a half times 24 is 12. So we're looking for a half of 24. Remember, this multiplication sign is like saying of. So this is like saying a half of 24. And a half of 24 is 12. This is where decimal multiplication gets a little weird. We're used to always multiplying whole numbers, like 9 times 80, and you get a number bigger than both these two digits. When you start getting into multiplying by decimals, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that you're going to end up with a bigger number. So 1 times 24 is 24. But think of it this way. So one group of 24 is 24. What's a half of a group of 24? A half of a group of 24 would be 12. So for this one, I guess it depends on how you do it. You could either think of it as 24 or 12. Now, certainly in terms of accuracy, this 12 is a lot more accurate than this 24 is. And a half is one of those compatible things. We can normally, especially if you have a an even number. But if this had been 54 hundredths times 25, and I was going to do this with what's happened to my pen? 25. I would think to myself, I would use my compatible numbers, and I would change this to 5/10 times 24 equals 12. These would be compatible numbers because I can do a half of any even number. Okay, so good luck, and I will see you in class tomorrow. Thank you for listening.